Hello traders and welcome to my 20,000 subscriber special price prediction video. First of all, I'm shocked myself that I have 20,000 subscribers and 1 million views. I did not expect that to ever happen. I only started this channel just for fun. I just posted a few past trades that I'd made, and if you look up the first few videos on my channel, they're kind of cringy. You know, well, slightly cringy to look at. I think any content creator, when they look at their first few videos, it's kind of like, what was I doing? But regardless of that, thank you guys so much for the love and the 20,000 subscribers. It feels really good. And what also feels good is I am currently filming in my apartment right now, as maybe some of you can tell. Hopefully some of you can't. Instead of the office right now, so that's why it looks like this. And what I want to do with this video is continue the price prediction that I'd made on February 1st. And on February 1st, I had said, so if I was to just give like a, tell me, are you bullish or bearish at this current moment? I would say I am short-term bullish, but medium-term bearish. So short-term, I wouldn't be shocked to see price move a bit higher on that demand that I had showed. And if that does happen, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Bitfinex orders to begin to weigh a little bit more bullish. But if I see price go, up to here, and then we get that flip where actually the MDR turns very negative and the Bitfinex BAS looks very negative as well, then I can't see Bitcoin going any higher, and we'll probably go below here. So short term. So as you can see, on February 1st, I was short term bullish, and I believed that I said I wouldn't be shocked to see price go from February 1st was here. Yeah, so February 1st was right here. So at this point in time, I said I wouldn't be shocked if price was to go to drift higher, up to these levels here, as it did, to around 38.50, which is where price is now. And then after that, I would expect to see MDR and some other indicators indicating future bearish price movement. And if that does happen, or when that does happen, the price would actually just then go much lower. Well, let's go see what the indicators tell us to see, is price more likely to go up, or is price going to do what I think it was likely to do on February 1st, which was this formation, just to show it visually. February 1st was here, where we do something like this, and then we do something like this. Is that going to happen? Well, I can't say now without looking at the indicators and doing some analysis. So indicator number one, let's take a look at sentiment. So what we see here is not the typical sentiment that I use, but this one is actually total Bitfinex long short sentiment. So this is long short sentiment on all cryptocurrencies that Bitfinex has that Bitfinex has sentiment data on, averaged together. So what you're going to see is a black line. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom out to here, and this black line does represent the average sentiment for all cryptocurrencies. Now let's take a look at the values of this black line. And currently it is at 69. It's this one here. It's currently at 69.73. So typically when we look at sentiment, we look at it in a few different ways. One is just looking at sentiment without looking at price change. We typically expect that when sentiment's low, price will rise. When sentiment's high, price will fall. When we look at sentiment and we incorporate price change, typically at the beginning of an uptrend, it's not uncommon to see sentiment increase with a price increase, or in a downtrend to see sentiment decrease with a price decrease. So something like this, as you can see. That's not uncommon. That just shows that people are selling in a downtrend, which isn't big news. What does become very powerful with sentiment, though, is extremes in sentiment and extremes in trends. Meaning, an extreme in a trend would be if an uptrend's been uptrending for a long time, and then you see a spike in long sentiment, price may reverse. Or if price has been in a downtrend for a long time, and then you just see a massive fall in sentiment, then price is likely to reverse back upward. So when we look at the average cryptocurrency long-short sentiment here, some pretty powerful stuff comes up. One, pretty obvious here. I minimized it. I don't know why I did that. Sentiment was at 73% long. So 73% of traders on these cryptocurrencies on Bitfinex were long at this point in time. Price tanks. Then eventually price came down to here and sentiment just fell like a rock. We had really not that many. I don't know why my frame rate is so low right now. We had how much do we have? We had only 54% long. Yeah, as you can see here. So 54% long, which is the lowest that this value had ever gotten. And when you're reading this kind of sentiment, and I'll attach this indicator below so that anyone can use it for free. When you're reading this kind of sentiment, whenever you see sentiment at an all-time low or sentiment at an all-time high, that should be a warning sign that price is likely going to move in the other direction. So when sentiment broke below here and was at lows that had never been seen before, this is a great time to start accumulating. Now we get to present price. Sentiment's very high right now. It's at 70%, just about. And this is typically what occurs before price goes down. So if I was to rate, hey, we're looking at sentiment here. Is sentiment bullish or bearish? I have to say bearish. Because the only time that sentiment is bullish in an uptrend when sentiment's rising is when this occurs. If you see high bullish momentum and an increase in sentiment like this right there, but it's actually the emerging stage of an uptrend, meaning the first wave of an uptrend, that just represents buyers buying early in an uptrend, accompanied by high momentum. Things change though. Now we have a second wave down and now we have a third wave up, but we see an increase in sentiment regardless. We saw an increase in sentiment even as price was retracing down to here. And then we saw a further increase in sentiment when price went on high momentum here, which is late stage in the uptrend. This is telling me that we are seeing late buyers buy into an uptrend. Not a great sign for price to continue moving higher. All right, indicator number 2. One that I didn't talk about on February 1st, but I think is awesome to look at. This is cryptocurrency, not cryptocurrency, Bitcoin volume across all exchanges except BitMEX. So this is looking at spot volume combined. Bitfinex, Coinbase, Bitstamp, Bitflyer, all of these exchanges. And I'm going to attach this in the description below. What we see here is that price went up here, and then had a massive volume spike, and we're seeing similar levels of volume currently. After this massive volume spike occurred, price did retrace back downward. And if we zoom in a little bit clearer, you can see here that we had also another massive volume spike here. Price went down. We had a massive volume spike here, but price actually kept going up. And now we're seeing a series of very large volume spikes, and the largest one yet in 7 days. We've had a volume spike of looks like about 60 million. That's a lot. So what do we take from this? There's a lot of volume being transacted in this uptrend. This uptrend is not going unnoticed. This uptrend definitely is getting a lot of buyers and getting a lot of traders entering or exiting or just making transactions in general. When you see an uptrend, when you see late stage uptrend with a ton of volume, that is typically not a great sign. You want to see, if anything, if you see an emerging uptrend, meaning the first wave of an uptrend, where you get something like this, where you have consolidation, then high momentum. Yeah, of course the high momentum is going to have high volume. That's completely normal. But when you see late stage uptrend, meaning a continued uptrend like up to here, but then you see even higher ratings of volume, typically to me, probability wise, that makes me more bearish than bullish. Yeah, that definitely makes me more bearish than bullish. So sentiment and volume, I'd have to say are bearish here. Can't really say anything else. All right, let's hide this and let's go to one of my more recent favorite things to look at, which I did not cover on February 1st either, is updated tensor charts. So tensor charts recently updated their BitMEX stats. You just go here, click on that. I'll attach this in the description below. This is the same thing as before, but what we're looking at is down here. You can't see the titles, but down here you have the funding rate. Here we have liquidations. Green are shorts being liquidated. Red is longs being liquidated. And then we have turnover, and then we have open value, open interest. And the way that we interpret, let's just talk about open interest. I don't want to get this too complex. Let's just talk about open interest, liquidations, and funding rate. What we see with open interest is we typically want to see an increase in open interest when price is trending. Because if we see open interest increasing while price is increasing, what does that tell us? That means that there are more traders opening futures positions as price goes up or as price makes its trend than people are closing their positions. Because if a lot of people close positions as price goes up, that's typically a sign that price is going to move down. So what you want to do when you look at open interest is you want to see a divergence between open interest and price. When they're in confluence or when they're moving in the same direction, then typically that trend continues. So here is an example. We have an up move here, but we see a massive decrease in open interest. What does this tell us? This tells us that more people had closed positions than had open positions on BitMEX futures. So what ended up happening? What was the result? Well, price just kind of didn't really go anywhere. Price couldn't go higher because people weren't opening positions in the direction of the trend. So price just kind of stagnated and did absolutely nothing. Price continued to do really not much of anything until people started to, pick up positions here and start to, the smarter traders probably bought and the unfortunate traders probably sold or shorted. And then we had this. But now we see open interest decreasing, decreasing here as price is increasing, and that's typically not a great sign for the trend. All right, indicator 2, let's look at liquidations. Here we see lots of liquidations on the hourly for XBT. Lots of short liquidations here. As you can see, ton of them. And now we see less long liquidations here. So what does this tell me? Well, when we see a ton of liquidations, we typically expect the price is not going to continue moving in that direction. The price is either going to move flat, consolidation, or price is going to reverse. And that's exactly what happened here. Price did not continue moving in that direction after these liquidations. Rather, price just reversed and consolidated, I think, at the same time, because it did move down a bit and it also consolidated. Other patterns of just massive liquidations you can see here in this downtrend. My computer is being super freaking laggy right now. This is interesting here because you can see that on this first leg down of this downtrend, we didn't really have many liquidations at all. So price kept going down until it liquidated the traders. Once it liquidated a lot of traders, it was then able to recover before terminating that downtrend. And then we got some up moves here. So what am I looking for in liquidations? And you guys are probably thinking, what is he trying to say here with this liquidation data? Well, I wouldn't be shocked to see a blow off, maybe a final market move upward where we liquidate a lot of shorts. I also wouldn't be surprised to see just price beginning to move down or just have a slight stop loss on and then move down. All three scenarios seem absolutely likely to me and probably equally likely. Yeah, I think that it would not be crazy for us to see a lot of liquidations occur with just one massive wick upward or one massive market move upward. That wouldn't be crazy. But I also wouldn't be shocked to see price just begin to reverse after a stop loss hunt. Price does boom, boom, then goes lower. And if we look at the funding rate, you can see that the funding rate is actually turning quite negative. As you can see, well, now it looks like it's bouncing back up, which is telling me that I think, again, that this uptrend is probably not going to be continuing to move upward. But I think that of all the indicators here that I'm looking at, I give probably the funding rate the least value. I give liquidations and open interest more value here in just my kind of analysis for predicting where Bitcoin's going to be going in the next few weeks to 2 months. I think that this is showing me overall with this loss of open interest and with liquidations here and with a lot of liquidations here that price is going to be making a leg lower. All right, let's now take a look at something that I've been talking about a ton recently, which is market depth ratio, the MDR. Let's go see what we can find. Currently, let me just refresh this. Currently, what I see on the MDR, let's go to the 1 month. This is what we're looking at on the 1 month MDR. Honestly, guys, I can't really tell you much is happening here. It looks like we've just kind of gotten a lack of MDR activity. So I can't really make a read on this on the just normal MDR. Typically when we see this, we expect price to move down. And typically when we see this or see this, we expect price to move up. But these MDRs are so tiny that I can't really say if it's really bullish or bearish one way or the other. We can look at the 5% though. And the 5% looks very similar. We don't really see much of a read. It's not very bearish and it's not very bullish. And if MDR isn't very bullish and if MDR isn't very bearish, then I'm not going to want to really, say, oh, it's likely the price is going to move up because we have plus 3.52. What I want to see is, like this, plus 36% MDR. This is when I believe that price is likely to move up, which was January 31st, February 1st, which is, again, right when I made that prediction on February 1st, we saw MDR like this, and that's why I said short-term bullish, because it was just so likely the price was going to be moving up February 1st, which was here. But do notice that before price moved up, we had a shakeout, and then we moved up. So again, I wouldn't be shocked to see if price does end up moving a bit lower, that we do get price to move a little bit higher to shake out some traders. Would I be shocked to see price move just above the $4,000 psychological price level and then move down to trigger stop losses and liquidate traders? Would not be shocked. Would not be shocked at all to see price move to 4,040, 4,030, and then move lower. That would be not crazy either. I think if I was to draw this entire zone of where would the stop loss hunt occur, if it was to occur, I think here is pretty fair. I think around there is where price could make a tail, like whoosh, and then price could go lower, or price could slowly climb up, make a double top, and then reverse lower. I think that absolutely is a scenario. And that is also covered in my price action volume guide about psychological price levels and stop loss hunts, which you can get if you click the link in the description below. So I think that isn't crazy to think of. So we looked at Bitcoin 5% MDR and Bitcoin just regular MDR. Let's take a look at the historical combined MDR. The reason I like to look at this too is this is showing me the bids and the offers of all cryptocurrencies added together. So cumulative. Red is people trying to sell or offers. Green is people trying to buy or bids. Now let's take a look at the MDR here. So MDR around here was minus 9.66%, 215. Now we're looking at about minus 5.64. If we zoom in, we can still see that the MDR is leaning towards bearish. Typically when MDR is bearish, when the combined MDR is bearish, when we have more people trying to sell than buy, that price tends to go lower. So I wouldn't be shocked to see price move lower. However, I can't ignore what happened here. I can't ignore what happened between 1:30 and 2 p.m. that MDR jumped by 5%, as you can see. That's a pretty massive jump. And I think right before then, let's go take a look at it. What happened at 1:30 to 2 p.m. because that's where that MDR jump occurred. 1:30 p.m., 13:30. Yes, that was around here. So this is where we're getting a lot of traders putting on more bids at lower prices, which would typically push price higher. So right here, we're just looking at the normal MDR. Let's go take a look at the 5% MDR because I've been liking to look at that recently too. So currently we see a very bullish MDR on the 5%. So what this tells me is I wouldn't be shocked to see price again move in very, very short term higher, in a stop loss hunt, and then price moves down. because it looks like we have a pretty bullish 5% MDR. So for my analysis, for my final analysis, I would say I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe a bit of retracement. Price moves up, fakes out some traders, then price really moves down a lot lower. But again, if price does do this kind of formation where we get that stop loss on or that blow off overbought point, and then price begins to trickle back down, I need to look at MDR, I need to look at sentiment, I need to look at all these indicators to see that they're confirming that a downtrend is likely to occur. Because these indicators that I mentioned and that I showed today, like open interest, liquidations, MDR, sentiment, volume, price, there's so many. When I look at these, if they change, if price does something like this, let's say it goes to like 40.40 and then price goes lower, or price goes to like 39.50 and then price goes lower. As price is going lower, if I saw open interest was decreasing, if I saw a ton of liquidations occurring, if I saw that MDR turned very bullish, then actually I would say that price isn't likely to go down to here. I would actually say that price might just find support here and then continue the uptrend. Am I saying that that's going to happen? No. The reason I'm saying that is that it's important to look at these indicators all the time. And I know that kind of sucks to constantly look at these indicators, but if you look at these indicators daily and just keep making analysis and keep tracking what's happening, and keep up to date on sentiment, keep up to date on the order book, and keep up to date on open interest and liquidations, you might have a headache, but you're going to be ahead of the curve at the expense of your head hurting because you're looking at it so much. Don't look at it every hour or something crazy like that. But if you look at this every day or two, then that will give you a good analysis. But currently, with the data that I have, and with the best prediction that I can make from the data that I have here, it's telling me that we're short-term, very, very short-term bullish. So, wouldn't be shocked to see price retrace or actually go back upward and fake out some traders around this 4K level, just below or just above 4K. And then I wouldn't be shocked to see price move lower. So we shall see. I think I always like to give my counter argument. So let's say I'm completely wrong and price just continues an uptrend above here and just continues to move higher and continues to move higher. What would I like to see? Well, if I'm wrong and price does in fact move way beyond these levels that I'm talking about, I wouldn't be shocked to see this happen. To see price move above here, hit some stop losses above these levels where some traders might have stop losses at, and then price to retrace back down to a previous level of resistance. So something like this, or if price here creates a major level of resistance like here, retraces and then moves up, I would expect price to retrace back to that established level of resistance. And then after that happens, if all factors are bullish, so if MDR looks bullish, if there aren't many liquidations, if open interest is increasing as price is increasing, so all factors are looking pretty bullish as price retraces back to previous resistance, then price goes higher. But I think it is more likely that does not happen. I think it is more likely that this kind of move here, this high momentum move and this high volume move, is looking more likely bearish to me. So my final prediction again is, I would say, if I was to give a probability, I'd say about 70% chance of bearish movement in the medium term. In the very, very short term, I wouldn't be shocked to see price move a little bit higher. But I'm not going to be surprised if price is beginning to move to these lower values, as long as my data just keeps telling me that we're bearish, which currently it is telling me that we're bearish. All right, so that is it for my price prediction. I think I've made this one pretty clear, not, oh, it might do this or it might do this. I'm saying here that either A, it will have a stop loss on, then go lower, B, will just go lower, or C, I'm wrong and price begins an uptrend. Those are the three scenarios that I see, with the first two being likely and the third being more unlikely. That's all. And that's based off the data we have today. So I hope that was clear. I hope that wasn't one of those price predictions where you're watching the guy and he's like, it might go up, but it might go down. So I'm going to say both so that my viewers don't get, don't say I'm wrong. No, I'm going to take more of a risk with this one and be like, yeah, I'm confident, 70% confidence that what I say is going to happen, it might happen here. It is going to happen here. And there's a 30% chance I think that I am wrong. Again, I am making up those numbers of 70% and 30%. Those are not mathematical calculated numbers. It's just how I feel on the market based on the data I have. I feel like I'm repeating myself just over and over again, so I'm gonna have to end this video. But if you guys have any other kinds of analysis here, if you guys agree, disagree, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Again, within probably 1 week, we'll see if my first prediction's correct. And maybe within a few months, we'll see if we ever actually go below $3,000 on Bitcoin, XBT, USD to trigger some liquidity for triggering massive amounts of fear, massive amounts of selling that some traders may have. This has been a long price prediction video. And if you want any more of this kind of analysis, you can visit my Patreon and vote on videos like these and suggest videos like these. Also, you can pick up my price action volume guide, which will be in the description below. With that, happy trading.